hitting the Facebook Live button. I'm putting this one out on my personal page, so we'll get a little bit of extra love on this, most likely by the time we're done. So, cool. All right, so I got 2 recorders. Final chance to ask me any questions before we go live, Bruce.
I am good to go, Nathan.
You are stalwart, man. You are not asking me any questions. So I am going to pull up my little spreadsheet, which is really hard because I have all these little secondary software windows open, and make sure that I've got everything that I can see without my glasses. Your website is gfi.org?
It is.
Okay. Great website. My word. They don't make them like that anymore.
No, and we only bought it like 2.5 years ago, and the folks who had it sold it to us for like $3,500.
Wow.
So I mean, we would have paid a lot more than $3,500 for it.
Yeah.
But yeah, one now it's $10 a year to keep it renewed.
Wow. Well, you can leverage that out. That's amazing. A 3-letter domain name.
I know.
Tremendous.
And when we actually, it was less than 2.5 years ago, is when we launched the Good Food Institute. Okay. I kid you not, our website address was thegoodfoodinstitute.org, which we still have. And somebody else had goodfoodinstitute.org, so we had to do it with the V. And anyway, just craziness.
Yeah, for sure. Well, good. Well, let's see. Let's get a jump on here. I got 2 recorders, so I got my fingers on both of those buttons. And we are live in 3, 2. We are live with Bruce Friedrich. Bruce, are you ready to talk?
I am excited, Nathan. I am excited.
Bruce Friedrich is Executive Director of the Good Food Institute, a 501c3 nonprofit organization that promotes innovative alternatives to industrially produced animal products. Bruce has penned opinion pieces for numerous publications, and he has co-authored 2 books. He's contributed chapters to 6 books, and he has authored 7 law review articles. Bruce Friedrich, welcome to the talk.
Thanks so much, Nathan. I'm delighted to be here.
Your talk is called From Agitator to Innovator, Why I Swapped Activism for Food Tech. I love your talk because I think it was maybe a year ago now, Bruce, and I was watching some travel show, and they were in the other side of the world. They were talking about the new big food trend in protein and sustainability, which was eating crickets. And I said to myself, I'm not going there. I don't care how many people are on the planet. I can never do that. And what I love about your talk is you have found a way to make the same sustainable idea a whole lot more palatable to people like me. So please summarize and take us behind the talk.
Sure, absolutely, Nathan, and thank you very much. So just to for a quick segue, just to sort of make sure nobody's afraid, we are not advocating eating crickets. So the sort of central brainstorm of the organization I co-founded, called the Good Food Institute, is that everybody makes their dietary choices on the basis of taste and price and convenience. So you look at what happened with soy milk, you look at what happened with almond milk. They went from 0% of the milk market sector to 10% of the milk market sector in like 15 years. They went from 0 to 10%. How do we do that with animal-based meat is sort of the question. And the talk is about how I got from somebody who was a big meat eater growing up in Oklahoma, and then I got to college, and I was very concerned about global poverty, very concerned about domestic hunger, very concerned about environmental issues. And so I was volunteering in a homeless shelter, volunteering in a soup kitchen, organizing fasts on my campus to raise money for Oxfam International. Then after college, I went and ran a homeless shelter and a soup kitchen in inner city Washington, D.C. for 6 years. So during that time, it was sort of agitator. But then it really got into sort of agitator as I learned about animal protection issues and learned about how badly animals are treated on modern farms and in modern slaughterhouses. And after 6 years of working in the homeless shelter and the soup kitchen, I went to work for People for the Ethical Treatment of Animals. And then I was just diving into all of the harms of industrial animal agriculture and figuring out, how do I scream from the rooftops what's happening to animals on factory farms, what's happening to them in slaughterhouses, the inefficiencies of cycling crops through animals, the contribution to global poverty, the environmental harm, and just really sort of trying to shake people awake, and realizing it wasn't working. Like, shaking people awake wasn't working. And what I came to realize is that instead of trying to convince people to make their dietary choices on the basis of ethical considerations, which some people will, and it's certainly worth doing, but most people won't, what we can do instead is what soy milk did. Like, soy milk went from 0 to 10%, soy and almond milk, of the milk market sector, and nobody's thinking about, not nobody, but most of those people are not thinking about cruelty to dairy cows. They're not thinking about cow flatulence as a way that, as a contributor to climate change or water scarcity. They're thinking, this is a delicious product. I like it. It's reasonably priced, and I know where to find it. So how do we do that with meat? And what we came up with at the Good Food Institute is food technology and markets. So basically the quest for a better burger and a better nugget and a better fish stick. And there are two food technologies that we're focused on. One of them is plant-based meat, and that comes out of the central brainstorm that meat is made up of lipids and aminos and minerals and water. So everything in meat we can make from plants. And then the other brainstorm is for people who just absolutely have to eat meat, we can grow it in a far cleaner and more efficient way. We can actually take the cells, feed the cells nutrients directly, put them on a scaffold in a bioreactor, and just create what's called clean meat. So it's real meat, it's the exact same product, but it's grown in a more efficient and safer and more humane way. And these are the technologies. If we go from where we are now with plant-based meat and clean meat, there is no clean meat market sector yet, and plant-based meat is 1/4% of the market. If we go from 1/4% to 10%, that's 900 million animals out of industrial animal agriculture, and it's 10% less of all of the harms that are attributable to animal agriculture. So agitator, shaking people awake, to innovator, plant-based meat, clean meat, markets, food technology.
So that's a lot right there, Bruce. And I love this because I think the most interesting piece is that you've worked with human nature.
Yeah.
You've found a way to be human and build that bridge and kind of leave the morality piece, not leave it out, but that's a secondary piece. And I think just looking back at your talk, you had me at the burger, because I grew up in central Pennsylvania myself and ate burgers and like all of that. And the story really grabbed me. And as a result, Bruce, I really trust what you have to say because of that common history and background. And you are able to be very, very influential by just sharing your story, so that I'm actually considering a lot of what you're talking about, where the ideas are frankly so radical that I would normally, it'd be very hard not to dismiss them out of mind. So that is meant as a major compliment to your ability to spread ideas we're spreading in a way that's going to spread. And it's a powerful thing. I think the soy milk and the versus the dairy milk is a perfect analogy, because that's what happened to me. I started, I used to run more than I run now, and I found that dairy milk, we had a chiropractor come in and say, if you switch over to soy or coconut or things like that, I guess those strains weren't really around at that point, but I switched off of the dairy, and I had a lot less just kind of phlegm and coughing stuff up when I was running. And I said, this is just plain more convenient. I prefer it. It's more delicious. And now, even in recent years, the cost has really gone down dramatically. And I know now it's to the point where some of my friends who are actually dairy farmers, unfortunately, they're having more hardships. And so we don't necessarily want that. But I think it's a huge testimony to finding not just an ethical way, but a way that's very human without being kind of a morally highbrow way to come along and try to convince most of us against our will. So kudos for that. I think there's a real lesson to Talk Universe in that, even if they feel very passionate about something. Bruce here, he didn't use his soapbox as a soapbox. He didn't go grandstanding. Instead, he found common ground in his story, and he discussed his evolution and brought us out and into a place where we can really consider some of the same ideas that he is considering. So anything that you'd like to either correct or clarify? I said a lot right there, but I thought you said a lot. I wanted to unpack some of the things, and really, really in awe of your ability to connect in what I think is a fairly radical talk in terms of introducing ideas that were completely new to me, and taking my wall down because I was traumatized from watching that cricket show a year ago.
Yeah, I mean, the thing about introducing crickets is that they really are asking people to eat something that people find unsavory, and they're asking people to change their dietary habits on the basis of environmental considerations. And 80% of Americans eat fast food. More than 97% of Americans eat factory-farmed animal products. You really do, I mean, we're just going to need, for the vast majority of people, to recognize that people love to eat meat. And I don't know if it's psychological or physiological or emotional or cultural. I don't know what it is, but people really want to eat meat. And the brainstorm of the companies that are doing plant-based meat and clean meat is that we can give people the exact same thing, but because it's so much more efficient, it will be less expensive. So you've got these plant-based meat companies. Up until fairly recently, they were competing with one another for the vegetarian market. And then along come some innovators and Silicon Valley funders, and they're saying, no, we can compete for the market with everybody because we can build a better burger, a better nugget, a better fish stick, eventually a better steak, a better pork chop, et cetera. So we can build these products, but because they require fewer inputs and because they require fewer stages of production, the process is going to be significantly less expensive as we scale up. So we'll actually have something people like the same, but it's less expensive, it's safer. As that happens, it becomes more convenient. And we used to talk about disruption, now we talk about transformation, because as we build these technologies, basically, this is where the meat industry goes. We've seen Tyson invest, we've seen Cargill invest, we've seen meat companies in Israel and Europe and all over investing and moving in this direction. These companies don't have a vested interest in factory farms and slaughterhouses. They want to supply high quality protein as widely as possible to people who want to eat it. And if that high quality protein is plant-based meat or clean meat instead of industrial animal meat, they'll be thrilled to do that. So it really is just recognizing A, people want to eat meat, and B, people are not really that interested in being told why they shouldn't eat meat. Let's just produce products that are meat, but they're produced far more efficiently and far more safely and far more humanely, and people will eat those instead.
Well, and again, going back to the soy milk metaphor or example, where's the trade-off? There isn't really a trade-off. It's more ethical. It's more delicious. All of these things. There's really not a downside unless you are financially or occupationally invested in the more traditional method. But I just love that we're not even talking really about a phase out, but we're talking about a reshuffling of the deck. So Bruce, what was the impact in the room that day when you were shown? Because you have a big juicy hamburger right there on the slide, which I love, which is disarming. So good politically incorrect people like me who host shows like Be the Talk about ideas spreading, which is a little funny. I mean, our wall is going down because we see that big juicy hamburger, but that was a synthetic hamburger or a clean meat hamburger?
It was a plant-based meat hamburger.
Plant-based meat.
Yeah. A company called Beyond Meat, which has investors including, everybody from Bill Gates to Tyson Foods is invested in Beyond Meat. And TGI Fridays nationally have the Beyond Burger. So that was a Beyond Meat burger from TGI Fridays. And I walked out eating a Beyond Burger from TGI Fridays as well. And yeah, I mean, people, I'm guessing that, like in the population at large, 97% of the people in the room were meat eaters. And so they see the burger up there, and I'm immediately talking about how I grew up in Oklahoma, and I grew up eating Big Macs and Dairy Queen Blizzards and bacon. And obviously people can relate to that. That's, those are comfort foods. Those are foods most people like. But people recognize, right? I mean, it's not a surprise to people that modern farms and slaughterhouses are unpleasant places. People don't perhaps know the precise statistics, but they know that it's an inefficient process. They know that it's not good for the global poor. It's not good for the environment. It's not good for climate change. It's not good for animals. But when we're sitting down to eat, we don't want to have to think about all of that. Mm-hmm. And so plant-based meat and clean meat innovation, those are a solution that pretty much everybody can get behind. So at the Good Food Institute, we have a full-time lobbyist who focuses on plant-based meat and clean meat. And what she finds is, whether she's talking to people from the Progressive Caucus or the Freedom Caucus, the idea of using markets, capitalism, mm-hmm. and food technology, that resonates with everybody. And so, some people will change their diet on the basis of ethical considerations, and I think that's great. I did. But most people apparently won't. So this should be a tool in our toolkit, and I think it's likely to be the most effective tool in our toolkit of relegating industrial animal farming to the dustbin of history.
So, Bruce, I'm realizing the more you talk, the more this is you are the case study. I've done 100 interviews up until yesterday. You are the case study out of all of them on connecting on common ground and disarming people and finding that common ground and lowering the wall. So kudos to you, sir. With that being said, we are actually, you got me in the zone. We're running out of time, so it is time to pivot over to Talk Universe for the Blitz round. Are you ready?
I'm ready. Let's do it.
So I'm gonna ask Bruce a series of binary either-or questions related to the preparation and the performance of his recent branded TEDx talk. So here we go. Bruce, were you selected to speak, or did you apply?
I was selected.
Are you a memorizer, an improviser, or a blender?
In this case, memorizer. But I'm sorry, it was the first time I'd memorized a talk in forever. Normally, I'm a stand up and talk about whatever the slide is. But for this, just to keep it in the 15 minutes, I memorized.
So you consider yourself a seasoned performer or newer to the stage?
Seasoned performer.
Mm-hmm. That said, did you have nerves, or were you in the zone, or neither, or both?
I was in the zone, but I experienced huge tech issues, which knocked me off my game. But until the tech issues came, I was in the zone.
Can you elaborate a little bit on that? Anything that was preventable in retrospect? Anything that we could learn from on the tech issues? Because that's pretty common.
Yeah, I mean, it came at the worst time. The PowerPoint clicker stopped working as I was getting up to a key slide. Oh. And so the brain is going click, 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 click. And it's really the one slide where I relied on the visuals. So the entire slideshow is just sort of backing up what I'm talking about, except one slide. And it was as I was getting to that slide that the clicker stopped working. And they did a really nice job of editing. But what you will notice if you really look, is for a good portion of the talk, I'm no longer using the clicker. There's somebody who's sort of guessing where I am in the presentation and what slide should go up, which was kind of funny. But so the fact that I had memorized the talk, I think, saved me. Because it allowed, I was so clear on what it was I was supposed to say that I could sort of prepare and think about what the slides were and what I needed to say, now that I couldn't rely on, the screen beside me.
That notorious clicker gets us every time.
I don't remember clickers not working. I give a lot of presentations, and I can't think of a time that the clicker didn't work. So this was, anyway, it was particularly unfortunate. But they did a really good job of editing the bit where I'm going, trying to get the clicker to work. So. Some people have said they can't even tell, and then some people said, "Oh yeah, now that you mentioned it, I can tell."
Well, Talk Universe, I couldn't notice that. So, but I know TED clickers are notorious for for not work. I mean, really, you can't hide behind a podium. It's not a keynote. You've got a very finite amount of time. So all of those things really heighten the performance aspect, and it's very, very common for these things not to work. Old man Murphy is at work with his evil laws. So that said, what's a technique or a tool that helped you out, Bruce?
I mean, it really was in order to keep to 15 minutes, having the thing memorized was invaluable. Like, I can stand up and talk for 15 minutes or 30 minutes or 45 minutes or whatever, however much time I'm given. But I just inevitably will go 2.5 minutes over whatever I'm told, however long I'm told to speak for. So memorizing was valuable for keeping to 15 minutes, and memorizing was also invaluable to not freak out when the clicker stopped working.
No, congratulations for that. My next question would have been the biggest challenge of your talk. We know what that is in retrospect. And the next question after that I like to ask, and I'll still ask this question, but you can't answer the clicker. I want to fish even more. So it's performance. So besides the clicker issue, what is the most unexpected, strange, or just plain weird thing that happened during or before you went on to speak, besides the clicker?
Weirdest thing that happened during or before I went on to speak?
I'm looking for number 2. Anything you can think of, or is the clicker did that dominate?
It was a. I mean, I think anybody who watches the talk, it was different from other. I watched a lot of TEDx talks to sort of prepare, and I was really confined to one area. I'm also a wanderer. Like, I never stand behind a podium, and I wander. And I was really sort of confined to the circle because the screen was significantly bigger than me, and it was immediately next to me, and it was sort of at my side. And if I were going to wander, I'd wander in front of the screen. So I wasn't able to do that, which was unexpected. It was fine, but it was unexpected and kind of curious. It wasn't what I had seen in other TEDx talks.
Well, and that's a great example, actually. I'm glad you mentioned that, Bruce, because, I mean, it's almost like having your hands tied if you realize, okay, I can go this way, but I can't go that way, or else I'll block out the light and block out the video camera, basically. So I think the way that we prepare, if we're pacers, it's good to kind of stay grounded and planted and force yourself in practice to do that, because sometimes you show up and there are always things to account for that may be out of the ordinary. Anything more to say about that?
No, I mean, I'm just so impressed by the entire TEDx experience. At least the people who organized my TEDx event were volunteers. I think most, if not all, TEDx organizers are volunteers, and correct. I thought all of the presenters were great. They had musical interludes, and the musicians were great. And I just think the whole TEDx thing is extraordinarily impressive, and the people who pull these things together. I think Chad and Michelle for the Bethesda TEDx, just really impressive, compassionate, can-do people. I thought it was great.
We've been enjoying a conversation that is rapidly running out of time with Bruce Friedrich. His talk is called From Agitator to Innovator, Why I Swapped Activism for Food Tech. And this has been just a wonderful interview, just because of the lessons of being able to lead and influence and connect people by disarming and finding the common humanity. I'm going to be listening to this interview multiple times, and I want to let you know where you can go to find out more about that talk and watch the talk. You can type it into YouTube, or you can go to our show notes page at bethetalk.com and click a little hyperlink, and you'll go to Bruce's talk. You'll be able to enjoy that. You'll be able to see this yummy looking burger that he comes out on stage. He has a big burger on the slide. He's chewing on this, what we now know is a TGI Fridays burger. And you find out all kinds of surprises about that burger. You can also find out more about the Good Food Institute, which Bruce's organization over at gfi.org, which is a great domain name, gfi.org. Bruce, back over to you for the final word of advice for Talk Universe.
Well, thank you very much, Nathan. I really appreciate it. And this is such a great service. It's so kind of you, I think, to do this. I mean, one of the things that I think probably many people under-prepare for is your opening and your closing. So as you pointed out, I walk out eating a burger. That's like a disarming. People were laughing the moment I walked out. So probably everybody knows people make their judgments about you in the first, like within moments after seeing you. So doing something disarming and interesting at the beginning of your talk, absolutely important. And then looping it back in at the end. So don't just walk out doing something interesting. Have that thing relate to the theme of your talk, and then at the end, go back to whatever it was that you were doing at the outset. So if you do that, everything that you say in the middle hopefully coheres, and you will have a successful TEDx talk.
Now, that's excellent advice. Bruce Friedrich, thank you so much for coming on the talk today, sharing your advice and your wisdom with Talk Universe.
Thank you very much, Nathan. It's my pleasure to be here.
All right, that's a wrap. We went a little bit long, but that was quite an interview. That was awesome.
That was fun. I appreciate it.
Well, good. I try to be fun. So now I still got the Facebook Live rolling. If anybody now, everybody's commuting and whatnot. We have people watching this. So actually, we do have a couple of minutes longer. So if you have a comment or a question or whatever, we might have enough time to take one. If I don't see anything pop up on the screen in the next 30 seconds to a minute, we're going to take this offline. And because really, Bruce, I can't ask you, hey, you have any questions for me and have any kind of real transparency or safety on your side if we're on Facebook Live. So I will absolutely take us offline for that. But and I don't know if we are friends on Facebook, like personal friends, but I can live tag you on this video if you reach out to me on that. So
great. I will definitely do that.
But all right, I am not seeing anything. Okay, you guys, take care. I'm going to go offline with Bruce here.